Hey guys, it's Eric with the Miller Park Minute, where we're throwing strikes, getting likes, hitting dingers, and getting listeners. Back again, we are here with the weekly wrap-up show, where we do a live session every Saturday around, well, tonight we hit 5 o'clock. Whoops. Um, Life gets busy. Okay, Saturday is a busy day for me. So anyways, we are back live talking about Brewers baseball and the week that was in the Miller Park Minute podcast. We threw strikes. We got likes this week. We hit dingers. We got listeners. We had a nice video from our good buddy, The Butcher. The Butcher does his great breakdowns once a week. Typically Wednesdays is going to be the day for that. So feel free to check that out. I'm going to put up an invite code. This is going to be a new thing we're going to try. If you're in the live broadcast and you want to come on, hit me up. You can join the studio. So we shared a StreamYard, like, who is making the biggest impact on the Brewers this year? Without a doubt, that is going to be Corbin Burns, seconded to only Rowdy Tellez. And the reason I say that is Corbin Burns has been that impact player for years. And he just keeps getting better. He's like at that point where he's just aging well, playing well. He made all of his starts last year. I'm gonna knock on the desk wood here, Scott, and say that Corbin Burns is gonna continue to be dominant. We're also gonna have domination from our good friend Willie Peralta. I think he's gonna be back. He's gonna be healthy. He's gonna have a full season with the crew. I already predicted a no hitter. That was, I don't know, earlier this so far. It's hard to remember exactly when I record all these. Now that I've done so many, and I'm on a streak of like 12 days in a row now, Scott. I don't know how many you've ever done in a row, but once you do a lot of them in a row, you're like, oh yeah, I don't remember which episode that was and when I was talking about that. So hold on a second. I don't want to hear myself in my own ear. Hold on, do quick click on my live. So yeah, and by the way, if you haven't checked out Scott and the hashtag truth, go check him out. He's got some great videos over there on his YouTube channel. He does interviews. I believe he does Facebook and YouTube, if that's correct. I'm just gonna post this link. This week we didn't really have a news week, so it was kind of hit and miss for me as to what we were talking about. The only real big thing, and I did that late night video last night. I forgot to record before I went to work, and I did not get to. Let's copy that link. Copy link. Great post. There we go. Oh my god! Come on. Paste. There we go. Post live video update. So if you do watch the repeat of this, which most people do, this show is live every weekend. We do a half an hour to 40 minutes, just chatting, catching up on the week. So some of the big things that we discussed on the Miller Park Minute this week were the success of a franchise, how we determine the success of a franchise, whether it be playoff appearances, World Series, that kind of thing. And right now, we're not in a time of success as this franchise, and it kind of disappoints me. I think we should up the bar a little bit and raise that. I just realized that I just restarted this recording. So if you didn't catch, Miller Park Minute is the SeatGeek code. I'm going to leave that up on the screen for the duration of the episode here. My name is Eric. This is the Miller Park Minute. If you haven't already checked it out, go over to YouTube. We have been making progress. I really am glad to have you guys around, and I'm having a lot of fun with this. So we're going to continue this daily format where I sit and I discuss baseball. And I said I'd read some comments live, so we're going to go into the comments section on YouTube, and we're just going to talk a little bit more about what people have had to say this week so far. So playoff wins are always valuable, especially as a Brewers fan. Honestly, 2021 NLDS loss to Atlanta was painful, but not embarrassing. Let's get back and get hot with our starting pitching. It can happen. And I'm going to smash a like on that and say I agree, because smash a like, not a dislike, sorry. And I'm going to reply and say I am with you. So one of the great parts about doing YouTube and doing this on a regular basis is, let's go to I've responded, because there's some more great comments this week. Oh, hey, look who's here.
How you doing, man?
Hold on. Let me see if I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. How can you hear me?
Hold on 1 second, bud. What about now, Scott?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
One second.
All right, man. You good? You good?
Oh, there we go. Now we got it.
All right. Can you hear me?
My recording setup, where I have to unplug it from the laptop and then replug it back in to get the secondary audio.
I got you.
When I spoke to Dom this week and when I spoke to Tim, I felt like I looked like the biggest tool because I screwed up. And they're like, no, we totally get it. We're cool, man. And I'm like, I know, but like they were in this fashion. They weren't live, so I didn't have to like fret on it too bad.
It's harder going live, man, because you got all kinds of anything goes wrong, you got to fix it on the fly. You know, I feel you, brother.
So it does this trippy thing. Hold on. Let me see if I can switch my mic back. Talk again.
Hello, how are you doing, man? Are we doing okay?
Maybe. I don't know. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you just fine. Okay.
Well, man, I'm just not going to switch that one switch. I don't know. That one switch tends to cause the issues. So I've had a lot of fun with this so far, and I don't know how often you go live quite a bit though too.
I go live like 4 or 5 days a week, bro. It's not easy.
Now, literally, we are on day 13 because I didn't post anything on the first of the year, but then every day since then, I've tried to make a topic. I've tried to bring somebody on. I've tried to have a little party on the YouTube. And it's been fun. It's been really fun. I've gotten a lot of support, and I really appreciate that. You know, I know you watch on a regular basis. I see.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, man. The Brewers are my team, man, and watching your podcast, man, I get to, if I don't get over there to look at the Brewers.com, I get to all the information through you, which is really cool. And I'm excited about one thing this year that a lot of other people are questioning. The Brewers have a plethora of starting pitching going into this year. And to me, that's going to be awesome if we stay in it. If we're in first place, second place, a playoff contending team going into the trade deadline, we're going to have a lot of pieces that we're going to be able to move to get that player or that person that we need. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think we're in a spot right now where we're not poor in the fact that we have a talent pool. We have a talent pool that is different than every other team's. And one of the things that Dom said the other night when we were talking was, we have this wealth of talent of guys that would be number ones and number twos. He called Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns number ones. You know, they were both
Right.
it's 1 and
They're
1.
both
You
number
know, they're
ones.
not 1-2. They're 1 and 1. And I think that was kind of the cool part of this week, and being able to discuss that with him was like really putting this out there, putting this into retrospect. You know, other teams don't know what we have because we are smaller and no one talks about us, and we don't have that, you know. So I think that's huge. I have to laugh as you come on my show. I literally, and I'm on my laptop, so I can't turn the camera, but I'm literally watching Edge versus Christian for the world heavyweight title. And I think this was number 16 I think this was 17 in a row.
I got you.
But I have it on Peacock right now.
I got the playoffs going on back here, the NFL playoffs going on back here on my TV. But man, talking about the Brewers, what about some of the things they've done this year? They've made some trades. They've some pieces that I thought would stick around for a couple of years. They've traded off or went elsewhere. I hope and pray that this year isn't going to be home run or strikeout like it has been the last couple of years. That's the one thing that we need, some people that could put the bat on the ball and get base hits. And I think with Major League Baseball stopping the aggressive shifts in the defense, I think you're going to see a lot more offense this year out of the Brewers.
And I totally agree with that. So I have to laugh because I took the time to kind of look at some of these hitters that we've acquired. And I'm like, these guys aren't bad hitters. It's just the weird time that is baseball right now, the weird place that is baseball. And a guy like Rowdy Tellez, who is set to be most impacted by this, is going to be huge. And I think, you know, some of these young guys that are going to struggle out of the gate are going to benefit as well, because they've already seen a little bit of this. The nice part about everything that they're doing right now with these rules is they're changing them in the minors. Where that works to our benefit is we have so many players on the cusp of the minor leagues that we are going to be one step ahead of the game. You know, yeah, maybe the major league roster is not adapted to it, but the minor league roster is. Your Bryce Turing, your Garrett Mitchell, your Weimer, Frelick, all those guys have already adapted to these type of rules and these types of things. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that we have the potential to actually have a better hitting roster than we've had. And this, I was just looking at it. I have this big side monitor that I pull up everything on, so that's why I stare off this way sometimes. But William Contreras is actually probably the biggest ad we've made out of anybody, and it's kind of flew under the radar. I don't know if you've no, I follow it a lot deeper, but one of the things that I've noticed is that he has not really said anything and has not really had like the jersey, you know, the putting on the jersey and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if there's a little bit of like animosity in his heart right now, and he's just, I don't know. I mean,
I think that might just be who he is, man. I mean, you got some players who just don't want all the hoopla, who just want to get on the field and play the game. And I'm hoping he's one of those. I'm telling you, we've got some great catchers behind him too that are coming up.
Yes, we do.
And you know, Adam McCalvey said it earlier in one of his podcasts that we have 3 pretty good catchers on this baseball team, and the catching is going to be deep. And another thing about him is that if he sticks around in Milwaukee, they were talking about, you know, he's not only a catcher, he could be a prominent, you know, first baseman. Or he can move to other positions if his hitting is as good as everybody, you know, hopes it's going to be.
Right.
You know, the Brewers have, the only problem that the Brewers have every year is, you know, we're a small market team. So, you know, we've got 3 or 4 players that are they're going to get paid here in the near future. And the Brewers, have got some huge decisions coming up in the next couple of years. You know, the pitchers, the Woodruffs, the Burns, our shortstop. We got a lot of big contracts that are probably going to come out if the Brewers want to keep these great players. So that's the thing that's making all these moves. Not only are we getting better in hitting, but we're preparing ourselves for the next couple of years.
Well, and that's the big thing. That's huge. Like right now, it's kind of we're almost in a state of make or break with the roster. I mean, you know, we want to contend now and we want to win now, but we also have to worry about the future of the franchise. Exactly. And that's one of the things when I was talking the other day about, the future of the franchise. These playoff bursts, this 4 or 5 year period that we're in is great. And it's been the most winning we've seen as a team.
We just got to get over the hump we got to get to the playoffs and get over the hump, man. We got to get back to that World Series.
Right. So
I think if we get back to the World Series, we got the pitching staff. As long as Freddie Peralta stays healthy, we got a 1, 2, and 3 that'll match up with any 1, 2, and 3 of any Major League Baseball team. And I'll argue that with my dying breath. I mean, if Peralta can stay healthy this year, we have I can't think of another 1, 2, 3 that's as good as that.
Going back
1, 2 maybe, but 1, 2, 3, I don't know.
And being that Contreras is young as a catcher handling these guys, he's gone to the World Series. He's been an all-star. But the one thing that I would say with Contreras here is his slash line ain't bad. It would have been one of the best on our teams last year. I mean, he hit 20 homers. He had a 278 batting average, 51 runs, 45 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 354 OBP, slugged at 500. 860 OPS. That's right where you want him to be. That's the prime. I mean, you want to get a guy that's going to hit and play like that. And if he can get better as a Brewer, I mean, heck yeah.
And he's a good general behind the plate. I mean, we're not going to worry too much again for the 1, 2, 3, but for the Lowers and the other, the 4th and 5th pitcher, the bullpen, the closer, he's going to be detrimental in the Brewers' success. It always has been. I can't think of a catcher in the last 10 years for the Brewers that wasn't a good, game general. That had a baseball mind, who didn't have a good baseball mind. All the catchers that we ever lost or got traded away, they're starting catchers on other baseball teams. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, and we had that period with Lucroy, and we had, we've had
who's Houston's catcher? I keep forgetting his name, but he was our catcher too. Houston's catcher,
Martin Maldonado,
Maldonado. He was another good guy.
He's been a piece of that team for World Series, everything. He's been a part of it all, which is awesome.
Right. I mean, that just shows you that, the catchers, and I would be wanting to be a catcher on the Brewers after seeing all that, because you're going to get a lot of the attention for defense. And like you said, he's got a bat. So that even helps. He's going to be a middle of the lineup. He's going to be a 5-6 in our lineup, maybe even higher. I'm looking at maybe number 2, because he could get the guys over. If you imagine Yelich and Contreras being our 1-2 punch at the top of the lineup. I mean, that would be kind of huge.
Right.
Get him on, get him over.
I'm not saying you're totally speaking out of the realm here. And it's funny too, because we go through this offseason and we're like, oh God, what are they gonna do? Who are these guys? What are they doing? And we see these players and these moves. And I was just looking at all these guys that we got here. Abraham Toro, he'll fit next to what we already have. You know what I mean? Jesse Winker will slot into what we already have. Whether he's off the bench or he's a everyday player, so be it. I mean, we traded something to get something, and we already have players in that position. And I think that's one of the places where the Brewers are really rich is players to use. I'm not going to say they're the best players, but they're good players, and
we're
if we
deep.
can
We have good players to back up. I just hope and pray again this year that Keston Hira comes out of it. We put so much on Keston Hira over the last couple of years, and I hope with some of these new players coming in, and he sees these players, every time he went down to AAA to get everything right, he's seeing these young players that are going to be coming up soon, and I hope he puts everything in, into perspective and becomes the player that the Brewers want, because Keston Hira could be huge.
Oh, agreed.
As a DH, as a backup first baseman, he could play second base. He could do amazing things. Luis Urias is another one.
And that's the thing. A lot of people have said, and I'm gonna pull his slash line up directly. Last year the guy batted 239, 47 RBIs, 16 home runs. I mean, God, slugged at 401 and an OPS of 739. I mean, like, what else do you want? It's not like there's much for talent out there. I mean, the only other guy really was Justin Turner, and Justin Turner wasn't going to come to Milwaukee. I mean, he went to Boston. Look at that.
Right.
We're at a spot here, and I honestly think so, where cash in with the guys we've got, even if we've got these limited windows with Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff, use those limited windows, use that time, and move onward after they're gone.
Right.
We're still in a window, and the window hasn't ended. It's just changed from year to year. It's changed in different pieces of slotted in, whether it be your McCutcheons or your Jackie Bradleys or your Wongs for a couple of years. We just changed the record, so to speak. Take that one off, put a new one on, and keep rolling. Now we're going to do it with the youth movement. So if you remember, I think it was 3 years, 2-3 years, whatever. There was a year where they went in and they hadn't made any moves, and they used Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta, and Brandon Woodruff. And really, we've done great since. It really worked out for us in the long haul.
The big thing about it is keeping everyone healthy. Last year, the reason I think we fell out of first place, everybody was like, oh, it was home run. Or I think the reason was, if you look back, when we lost first place, we had some huge we had some people that were injured during that time, some big pieces of the puzzle for Milwaukee that was injured, and it hurt us. It hurt us bad. And by the time they came back, it was too late. We were already too far gone.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, when you're big guys, like losing a Freddie Peralta is huge when you don't have the backup. We pitched a guy in the name of Jason Alexander late in the year last year, and no fault to him. I mean, he's developing, but he's just not set to be star caliber that a guy like an Ethan Small will be once he gets some seasoning in. Same thing with him. He got lit up. He got absolutely lit up. I'm going to read some numbers to you. You tell me what you think here, but you're looking at what they're paying out, and this was one of the big conversations again with Dom. We had a huge conversation about this. You're raising a Keston Hira sign for $2.2 million, Victor Caratini $2.8. Kobe Milner went to $1.025. Rowdy Tellez $4.95. Eric Lauer $5.075. Wade Miley acquisition was $4.5 million. Closer $3.335 million. These numbers are ticking up. Luis Urias 4.7. Willie Adames went up to 8.7. Abraham Toro went to 1.25 million. Brandon Woodruff went to 10.8 million. And they're working with Burns. Burns wanted, I think, 10.75, and they gave him 10.01 or something like that. So I mean,
right.
Like, this is the time where your money's going up, so you got to get more for it and spend more on the team. And that's where they're being conservative and they're trying to get these guys on long-term deals.
Right.
I don't think Corbin Burns' saga is over, but I think they'll try to maybe get a short if they can short extension if he'll play that way. And that's one of the things.
If the Brewers know for a fact they're not going to keep Corbin Burns, right before the trade deadline, the year that, the following year when we know we're going to lose him, the year before that at the trade deadline, they're going to the smartest thing to do would be to replenish, and get more top prospects on our team. I mean, right. I don't see them going out and trading for a big name for a big name just to, get somebody for a half a season or something like that. I see them replenishing, using, his clout to replenish and get a lot of kids that could help the Brewers in the future. What do you think about that one?
I do. I mean, I think the inevitable is kind of on our doorstep. And I think one of the things that we always look at here is, okay, well, what can we get for him? Well, let's wait till people really are desperate for him, and maybe give him another year. I at least say ride him out this year.
I don't want to get rid of him before we absolutely have to. No way. Right. We're definitely going to keep him all the way until we possibly, until there's no longer a way that we can keep him. But if we do keep him, that's going to be a large chunk of money. That's going to be one of those big contracts, just like Christian Yelich and things like that. And right. Brewers are going to have to be careful, because if they do that, then, you might be losing Willy Adames the following year because you won't be able to pay his, after his contract is up. And so you got to be careful. It's being a small market team, that money is very important. You know what I'm saying? And I know you know this. We've suffered for many years being Brewers fans. We both know this very well.
See, I have this theory, and I'm just going to go off on it for a second. I'll try and keep my just reference brewersfanatic.com, my partnership over there. That's where I'm getting these numbers and this information for. Okay. I reference their page a lot. But yeah, go check them out, Scott. They're pretty good.
Definitely.
But that being said, like I always say, and I know you don't currently live here, but the thing that they did in Milwaukee with the Deer District was a moneymaker. It pumps so much money into this team, and that team. Now, right. To pump money into this team, the Brewers franchise, they could do the same. There's really, you've been to Miller Park before.
Miller Park is amazing. Space. If you've never been to Miller Park as a baseball fan, and I've talked to some baseball fans who are like Cub fans, who are, Pirate fans and things like that, and they've come into Miller Park. Miller Park, with the exception of a few seats that are blocked off by the big pole out there because we have our mascot sitting up there, there's not a bad seat in the house at Miller Park. I don't care where you could be up at the euchre seats, and it's still a good seat in that park. I love Miller Park. I always have. And I am calling it Miller Park. I don't care what anybody says. You can keep your fam. It's Miller Park.
People still call it County Stadium. At this juncture, I think we can still kind of get away with that. I honestly think that, just looking at kind of where we stand that way and putting money in and sponsorship, I understand baseball is a business, but right. I also understand business in the light and say, okay, you took a franchise that was worth $222 million and made it worth $1.2 billion. How did you do that? How did you make that bottom line increase that much in that short period of time?
Well, they were winning, for one. They changed it to a winner.
You put a winner on that field, people will spend money. I have good friends that hold all, was that 162, 80 game packages or whatever they are, the full season package.
Right.
And they said, hey, as long as they're putting a winner and a good brand of baseball on, I'm going to spend my money. Now, several of them, when Josh Hader got traded, and this is just the reality of the nature of the beast, when Josh Hader got traded, we're like, I don't know. This kind of seems like a tanking move. It kind of seems like they're trying to start the rebuild. And in a certain light, I feel that they maybe just got a little hot to trot on what they thought they were going to do. And that's fine. But if
and it was at a time when they made the trade, it was at a time when Hader came out and blew. I mean, totally, not just small, but blew a couple of leads for us.
Right. And I think in the long and short of it, the economics of baseball and what we've got going on, Milwaukee is a party town in the summer. And if you can continue to put these named guys out there, I think they'll bring money into the franchise. And then, guys who are non-fans, I have quoted this so many times, Scott. I was not a big Bucks guy. I've watched the Bucks when I was a young fella. I liked basketball when I was really young. Right. And then I kind of got out of it in my adult life because, I got more wrapped into baseball. Now, I have actually started watching games. I'll turn on Bally Sports Wisconsin. I'll turn on the Bucks on the radio now because I'm interested, because they got something going. They got a superstar.
Giannis changed everything in Milwaukee for the Bucks, man. Giannis, not only Giannis, but they put a couple other players on the court with them that aren't household names, but they're all stars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's the truth. I mean, one of the things as sports fans and as a fan of any team, you always want to lock up that superstar, and you always want to have that guy, whether it be Christian Yelich or Corbin Burns or Willie Adames or Brandon Woodruff. You want to lock up that superstar, but you also want to lock up the core around him and leave yourself money to play with. And that's the thing that the Bucks have done over us years and years. And it goes back to Ryan Braun. I mean, we locked up Ryan Braun, and then kind of the pieces around Ryan Braun kind of just slotted in. We weren't able to get Prince locked up, which is a shame, and who knows where his career would have.
But hindsight 2020, it wasn't but a few years later, and Prince was gone. So we made the right pick as far as the player, but after what Braun did, it was kind of, oh man, it took a while for me to forgive Ryan Braun, but I did. He made a mistake. He came back. He finally admitted it and did his thing. But I'll tell you the one thing that really made me excited in Milwaukee, and I'm not, like you said, I'm not living in Milwaukee anymore. My heart for two of my favorite teams is there, the Bucks and the Brewers. But it's awesome when the Bucks turn around and pay Giannis, this super packed money. He's going to be there for the rest of his career. And what is one of the first thing that Giannis does? He becomes part owner of the Milwaukee Brewers by investing in the Milwaukee Brewers. That made me feel so good. I jumped up. I had tears in my eyes. I was like, man, that's how you make a fan of a city. Now, Giannis is all Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's bought in. He's definitely bought in, and he loves the city. It's very apparent, and it's great to have that as a franchise. You want to have that guy that's so involved. Lives and breathes, and obviously Giannis came from a different country. He's not like he lived in our country, where Christian Yelich lives out in California, and he does. I don't know the status of like him having a place and everything like that. I don't know what he's got. I'm sure he's got a beautiful condo downtown or something like that. A lot of these athletes have condos, and then they leave for the winter months because they don't want to deal with Wisconsin.
But I can't remember. I think Yount and Molitor were the last, and Molitor continued on and played for, Minnesota in that afterwards. So I would say Yount. Yount is the last player that I can remember that's been all in for the Brewers. Spent 20 years here, All-Star, Hall of Famer, whole 9 yards. And that's why he's glorified so much by Milwaukee Brewer fans. I mean, and baseball fans alike. He played shortstop. He played center field. He played, he was a legitimate, Hall of Famer. I can't wait till the next Brewer, and I'm hoping it will be Corbin Burns. I'm hoping Corbin Burns will be that next guy to say, okay, I'm going to make Milwaukee my home. I'm going to bring a World Series to Milwaukee. I'm the number one guy here. Let's do this. And that would make me, again, that would probably make me cry again.
Right. Well, and that's
I just want one Milwaukee Brewers World Series win before I die, sir. That's all I want.
Right.
I want to win. I want to win the World Series.
I'd like to be the number one sports podcast in the world too, but I mean, it's just a small request. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Maybe baseball, not sports. Pat McAfee's pretty good. I was going to ask you though, since I got you on the air right now, being that our favorite teams are division rivals, and you kind of had some flux here and fell out. How do you feel about where you're going with Washington, and what quarterback do you want to see going forward at this juncture?
One of the questions people ask me all the time, Scott, you're from Milwaukee, you love Milwaukee, you have Milwaukee on your Facebook page, you're a Brewer fan, you're a Bucks fan, why aren't you a Packer fan? Well, I kind of was born in Wisconsin, grew up a little bit in Wisconsin. Then I moved to Tennessee. My family moved to Tennessee. And at the time, they didn't have the Titans. And I was a huge football fan. So it was a choice between the two closest teams, the Atlanta and Washington. And Washington in the 80s when I was down there. You know the players, Art Monk, Rippin, things like so. I became a Washington Redskin fan, and man, I'm telling you, I think Howell's going to be our future quarterback after what he showed in the last game. I think they're going to let him. They've already put out a press conference that said that he's going to be our starting quarterback next year. The way he beat Dallas, nobody expected us to beat Dallas in the last week. Dallas had their starting offense in there and didn't score hardly any points. Our defense is on point. We've got to get a quarterback. If we get a quarterback, we're going to be in the playoffs next year. If Howell is that quarterback, we'll be in the playoffs next year. And but that's a big if, because one game it doesn't make a career. You know what I'm saying? We've had Washington quarterbacks who've had one good game, and we thought they were going to be our next quarterback, and the next thing 12 interceptions, one touchdown pass. So
well, right, and that's the thing. So now especially where the East, and my Dallas Cowboys and the Giants and the Eagles are all in this thing. Yeah, I slightly own that on the podcast. Every now and then I'll come out wearing a Dallas thing. Who do you got? Where do you think this thing goes this weekend? Since we're live and we're talking
for the Super Bowl,
this thing goes
for the playoffs.
Who moves on right now out of this wild card race?
Well, right now it looks like San Francisco is gonna move on. That's pretty cool. Let me pull up the playoff picture, because I already had my prediction for the playoff. My prediction for the Super Bowl was 49ers and Bengals. That's my prediction. But right now, Seattle's playing San Francisco pretty tight. It's only a 6-point game. So
right, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was just looking at that on the side while we were talking.
The 49ers could get taken out today. I don't know, but it's going to be close. Now, the Giants, if their defense steps up, they can beat the Vikings. All you got to do is rattle Kirk Cousins a little bit. Just rattle him a little bit, and he'll start throwing interceptions. I'll say that to my dying day. How do I know that? He was a Washington Redskins quarterback. You rattle him a little bit, he's going to throw some interceptions. The Cowboys and the Bucks, man, I don't know about that. That's going to be a game. I tell you what, that's all going to come down to Dak Prescott. In my opinion, it's all on Dak.
It's gonna be interceptions for both starting quarterbacks. Neither one of them is gonna look like studs. It's the most exciting game, but it's also potentially gonna be the most clunker. I'm gonna go with the home team, my home squad, and go with the Cowboys on that one. I think the Bengals beat the Ravens.
Wait a minute. It says on here they're playing at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers won their division, so they're playing in Tampa.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's Brady at home. They got to beat Brady. Like I said, I think it all comes down to Dak. If Dak has a good game, the Cowboys will win. If Dak don't have a good game, I think they're going to go home.
I don't think they're in the position to pull out and put Cooper Rush in. Maybe, I don't know. How bad do you want it after how many losing playoff appearances?
Yep.
I
I
think the
hope they
Giants
go
could pull it
far.
out.
I hope an NFC East team goes to if an NFC East team, if one of these three NFC East teams go to the Super Bowl, that would be great. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
if we could have an NFC East matchup in the NFC Championship game, that'd be great. But the other one,
That would be
and this
huge.
is because of what happened. This is what I'm going to say. The other one I'm really pulling for out of the AFC is the Bills. I think to complete the story, the Bills need to go all
Wouldn't
the
that
way
be
to
an
the Super
amazing
Bowl.
story? Wouldn't it?
It would be fantastic. It would be the best thing. And like I feel like it would restore people's faith in like the world and humanity again. So
Right. Right. I'm just
Jags
glad. I'm just glad that he is out of the hospital, alive and well. Those pictures,
doing
man.
good.
When that
Doing
happened that
good.
night, I was watching the game live. When that happened, and they were showing like still shots. They wouldn't show it live, but they were showing still
Right.
shots of them doing CPR on them, and all them players crying. It was heart wrenching, man. I'm not a Bills fan, but I was crying, dude. It was like, man, uh, it brought a lot of people together, and I'm glad they did the classy thing and just called the game where it was. That's it. The game's over. The score 7-3. That's it.
Unlike Vinnie Mac, who let the show roll after a guy died, falling out of rest in peace, Owen Hart. But yeah,
Yes, you know how many
exactly. Like
times I've
they
heard that
rolled
since
the show,
that
and how long did that affect him? How long did that affect his business?
a
I mean,
long
you still,
time.
I
It's
mean,
still
talking
affecting
about
them
this where I thought
today.
we thought a guy died on live TV.
It's
You
still
know,
affecting them today. It's still affecting them today. They are not allowed to bring anybody like down from the rafters. They're not allowed to do any of that, uh amazing stuff that they used to do back in the day. But I don't know how they could have continued on with it. That pay-per-view went to black for about 20 minutes until they got Owen out of the ring, and then it went right back to going. And that shock, I was shocked. I was watching that live too, and I was shocked. I mean, that's man.
I didn't
I
see it live, but so how I saw it was, um, remember back in the day, like early cable, you could like go to those channels and it would be like so gray and blocky, but you could kind of every now and then the picture would
right,
pixelate itself back into position.
right.
That's how I watched that. And yeah, and then my dad the next
Hey,
morning came in because he saw it on the news and told me about it because I was a young buck at that time. I probably
right.
was 10 years old or whatever it was. But like that
I
shook
can't
up the rest
remember
of the
how old
world
I
and,
was.
and a lot of the world at that time. So
Right,
it's just
right.
crazy. I think that would be a good story. Um,
What'd you think about the Broncos and the Chargers having both their number threes come out to the center of the field? They get down and they prayed. They bent down, they kneeled, they prayed, and I thought that was a great moment too, man. That Wilson came out for Denver. He was number 3 now over there, and I can't remember who number 3 was for the Chargers, but they both came out to the middle
I
field.
thought that was
It's just
great.
a
And
heartwarming story, man.
I think everything they've done around this thing has been really good. It's good for the NFL. And yeah, I don't think baseball quite has this caliber of play yet. And I think that's where
Right.
we need to get to. It'll come. It'll come. They'll figure
Oh
it
yeah.
out. They're
Oh
stumbling
yeah.
out of the gate at first, but I mean, I think we'll get to that point where baseball becomes back more national. It's getting more popular. There, guys are paying more money to have these players be these teams,
And they're
and be
trying to
more
change it to
renowned.
be a more offensive league to stop the shifts. They're going to make, it a more offensive league. And that's what baseball, that's what brings people to the games is runs scored. If you're a huge baseball fan like me, I don't mind a 0-0 game going into the ninth. Great pitching, nobody's hitting, 2 aces on the mound. To me, that's baseball too. But for most
Right.
of America, you sit and talk to them. It's like, well, if they're not scoring runs, if they're not running around the bases, if they're not doing something, I'm not going to watch it. I'm just going to yawn and turn it off. Well, okay, well, baseball is trying to make the rules. They're trying to get people to move faster, so it's not a 3.5 hour, 4 hour game of they're trying their best, and I enjoy it. I actually am one of the few people. I don't know how you feel about this. I know they changed it back this year, but the last 2 years that they had the ghost runner on second, starting off extra innings, I love that rule because it made the pitcher have to pitch right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people didn't like the rule, but I did because it made it exciting right away. Were they going to bunt them over? Were they going to, hit the ball? And a lot of times that runner didn't score. Believe it or not, that runner didn't score more times than you think they did. You know what I'm saying? It was like in the 30% range or something like that.
Yeah, it really was. And that's the interesting part. Now, I can give or take it. I mean, part of me hated it, part of me liked it in the same way because it made games quicker. But at the same time, like, the miscue here is they're not going to make more fans by making these games any shorter. They're not going to. What rolled into another WrestleMania? That's funny. They're not going to. NFL is still 3.5 hours too. A baseball game is still going to be 2 hours, 2.5 hours plus.
Right.
I don't think there's a magic number, and my calculation may be different than their calculation. I'm sure they've done research and stuff like that. But I don't think there's a magic number where all of a sudden everybody's tuning into the Milwaukee Brewers. You know what I mean? It's star power. It's making the game more entertaining, making these players more reachable, more. One of the things from my early days of watching baseball is I always liked watching the Yankees. The Derek Jeters, the Alex Rodriguez's, the Mike Mussina's, the Roger Clemence's, Andy Pettitte, Mariano Rivera. But those guys were monsters of men. They were so like impossible to obtain, where football players seem more real in today's juncture, especially right now because football is gaining the most that it's ever gained. And
it is. Football's the number one sport in America. The number one sport in the world is soccer. The number one sport in America is football.
Yep. And to bring the national pastime back, you've got to make the right adjustments. And I just don't think that these magic numbers of hours and how long the game is going to bring it back. I think you just got to
I think it all goes back. It all goes back to me to the money in the league is still, I know they're doing the sharing and things like that, but it's still, the Brewers are going to have a hard time getting over the Boston, getting over New York, any of the New York teams, LA. Any of the Boston teams. These teams that have money, that have a $300 million budget to our $80 million budget, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard set to beat a team like that because, like you just said, them players you named were, if my memory is correct, a lot of those players were on the same Yankees team. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They have that much money. The Brewers can't afford all that. We have to build ours. We have to bring them in and make them better players.
We have to grow them. I was just looking around my office. So they used to, I don't know if you remember, you seem like that kind of guy like me. They used to have McFarland's made collector figurines for baseball.
Yeah.
They still do, like another company does it. It's like China something. Like, like this guy right here.
Yep, that's it right there.
Like this.
Right.
So the only ones that they used to create back in the day were the New York fucking Yankees. And the only team that was broadcast everywhere was the New York fucking Yankees. So I was a Yankees fan at that time because, like, they were broadcast. That was before Bally Sports Wisconsin, Fox Sports Wisconsin. Like we WGN was very prominent in the Wisconsin market for years, both in our life and both of our lifetimes.
I grew up watching Cubs baseball too, even though I lived in Milwaukee, because WGN showed the Brewers all the time.
Right.
Or the Cubs. I'm sorry, the Cubs. I meant the Cubs. Why did I? Yeah, they showed the Cubs all the time.
You kind of, and later in life, we got to see more Brewers baseball, and I think once you bring that more out of the fan base, I think we're going to do better in the long haul because.
Well, I think when the Brewers went to the National League, that helped too. When the Brewers went to the National League, that helped a lot too, because the Brewers and the Cubs being in the same division, I love it.
My brother-in-law got me that for Christmas. I was just looking for it.
That's good.
Muscle loyalty, respect, baby.
The only figure I've got is, and I haven't got a shelf or anything to put it on though, but
is that Giannis?
Yeah, that's Giannis.
That's sweet.
I just don't have a shelf or anything to put it on yet. I'm working on it.
My office is like a hoarder's paradise, if you haven't seen that.
Right. I'm looking around back there. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff, man. I do have this. This is my luck. This is my good luck charm for every game.
Oh, I love that guy. That's one of my favorites. I have that one of the yellow ones back there.
I have my Bernie Brewer. He stays with me every game.
Right. Just pet it. Make sure. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on. You turned what was supposed to be maybe 30 minutes into
an hour,
51 minutes at this juncture. So I appreciate that. So, guys, that's it for the weekly wrap. I am going to stay with me here, bud. I am going to wrap this show up. We will be back again. So this will go live tomorrow on the podcast form. So we will be back again Sunday night or Monday morning at 5:30 a.m. weekly every day. 5:30 a.m. is when our videos go live, or our podcast sessions, where you can get them on Anchor, Spotify, Apple, and of course YouTube. So thanks for watching, guys. This has been the Miller Park Minute. You guys have a great rest of your night, and go Brewers.